Hi, my name is Laurie Riley and I'm here to talk about double-strung harps. A double-strung harp is different from a regular harp that has one row of strings because a double-strung harp has two rows. As you can see, I have one row for my left hand and one row for my right hand. Both rows are complete rows and I can tune them exactly the same way. The most obvious thing about the double-strung harp is that my right hand has a full row of strings. It'll never run into my other hand because my left hand also has a full row of strings. Now, as I pointed out, the tuning of the harp as I have it right now is the same from side to side, etc. So all of the strings match each other. It doesn't have to be that way. I could, for instance, sharp something on one side that's not sharped on the other, so I would have different strings, different notes from side to side. Most of the time, however, you'll probably be playing the harp with it tuned exactly the same way on each side. Now, as you can see, this is not a large harp. This harp has 29 strings in each row. There are many different sizes of double-strung harps. And one of the benefits of double-strung harps is that you don't have to have a big harp to play the complex arrangements that you may be accustomed to. Many people feel that you have to have a lot of strings to be able to play a lot of music. But one of the reasons that the modern double-strung harp came to be is because you can play much more complex music on it than you can on one row of strings. Double-strung harps usually have a full row of levers on the left side and a full row on the right side. Now, I can't see from where I sit at a harp the levers that are on the right side of the harp because obviously the neck of the harp is in front of them. And one of the most common questions is, if you can't see your levers, how can you flip them? So before we go any further, I'm going to answer that question for you. It's much simpler than you might think. The levers, of course, are at the top of the string, and that's obvious, right? The lever is right up here at the top of each string. And now I know that, so I don't have to be able to see it. What I can do, if I want to flip a lever, is place my right hand on whatever string I'm going to need to change. So let's say that this string needs to be sharped. I'll put my finger on it, slide it up the string until it meets the lever, flip the lever at the top without looking, of course, and that sharps the string. Let me do it so that you can see it. I don't have to do it on this side in that same way because I can see my levers here, but just for demonstration purposes, if I put my finger on the string that needs to be changed, slide it up the string until it meets the lever and keep going. It just automatically flips the lever and now the string is sharped. Likewise, if I have a sharp lever on the side that I can't see and I need to put it down, I don't have to be totally accurate. All I have to do is take my flat hand and go to the approximate place where that lever is and just feel it to flip it down. Just so that you can see what I mean. If I couldn't see this lever, I'd just take my hand and do that and flip the lever down. Because I can tell by feeling which one is up. So that's actually a lot easier than you might think, and you can flip levers in the middle of a piece simply by quickly running up the string and flipping the lever like that. It's quite fast, it's quite easy, and I don't have to be peering over the top of my harp to do it. I'm going to show you 3 different sizes of double-strung harps. This particular one, here's middle C, here's an octave below middle C, and it goes down to the G below that. On the top, it goes from 2 octaves above middle C to 4 notes higher than middle C. So I can play everything that I know on just this many strings, believe it or not. You'll be seeing why as the video goes on, but first I'm going to show you a larger double-strung harp and then a smaller one. Here's a big one. It has 36 strings in each row, and of course, like any large harp, it has that big tone. So if you want bass and you want the really big tone, then of course the larger the harp, the more of that you get. But if you have a smaller double-strung harp, you will have still plenty of strings to play the same kinds of arrangements that you play on a large single-course harp, and the only thing that will be different is that you won't have the bass sound when you have a smaller double-strung harp. Now, in case you're wondering if what I said before is true about being able to get a lot of music out of a very small harp, I'll demonstrate a piece that I usually play on a single-course 29 or 32 string harp. The thing is that I can pretend that this entire row of strings are actually bass and mid-range instead of mid and treble. Now, of course, they sound like mid and treble, but I play them as though they were bass and mid. Whereas this row will be exactly what it is. This is mid and treble. So, let's try this tune. Now again with a medium-sized harp, I'm going to demonstrate the same tune, and I'll play it on a single-course harp, and then I'll play it on the double-strung harp again, so that you can hear the difference in how many more notes I can actually get into the tune with my left hand. Here it is as a typical arrangement on a single-course harp. This double-strung harp is exactly the same size as the single-course harp I just played, so I'm going to do the same tune again. So as you can see, there were a number of places in that piece where my hands actually overlapped. That's just one of the many techniques that you can use with a double-strung harp, and I'll be showing you several other techniques as well. What I was doing just then was playing a normal piece, a normal arrangement that I would have played on one course of strings, except that I could do more with my left hand, and it never ran into my right hand. Now, as I already showed you, you can overlap your hands, but I'm just going to give you a more graphic demonstration of that. Another option that you have is doing a great deal more with your left hand than you might normally do. So for instance, I'm going to play the tune that I played first, and I'm going to play it much more slowly so that you can see the detail. And I'm going to do more with my left hand than you might expect. So one of the most common patterns that we're accustomed to is 1, 5, 8, 2, 3, or 1, 5, 8, 2, 3, 5. That's something you hear a lot on the harp. But what if I took that and brought it way up high so that at the highest part it overlaps my melody? Let's see what happens. So as you can see, your left hand can be all over the place, and it's never going to run into your right hand. When you first sit down at a double-strung harp, you'll notice right away that your eyes don't know what to focus on. If your first harp was a single-course harp, you probably remember that when you first sat with it, your eyes were confused, and focusing was difficult. It took a few days to get used to it. And the same thing is going to happen with a double-course harp. Many people think that it's hopeless when they first sit down, and they say, oh, my eyes won't focus, I guess I can't play this harp. But it's just like it was with whatever harp you first started with. Your eyes need a few days to adjust. I would say that after a week or so, you'll be fine. The trick that I used when I first started on the double-strung harp was to simply not focus my eyes. My hands knew where they were going because they had a kinesthetic sense. So I could play most of my arrangements without looking that hard. And if I played with the left hand and I wanted to focus here, my eyes would get confused if I then wanted to look at the right hand, because it's about 2 inches further away than what I was accustomed to. So I suggest don't try to focus your eyes. You could even play with your eyes closed, but I can guarantee you that you will get used to it, that your eyes will learn how to focus. Another technique that's really fun on the double-strung harp is that you can set the keys different from one side to the other. So for instance, I have a favorite Swedish tune that requires that the left hand be set to the key of G and the right hand be set to the key of D. So I'm going to flip my F and C levers on the right hand side, and I've already flipped the F levers on the left hand side. So I've got the key of D now on the right hand, the key of G on the left hand. And here's the tune. another thing that works very well on the double strung harp is that if you have an accidental where you have to flip a lever for your melody, it doesn't have to be done with the right hand. You can do it where you can see it. For instance, if this were a single course harp, I would actually be flipping this lever and I'd play, except all with the same hand. Now on the double strung harp, I can flip this lever up and back down again and play just that one note with my left hand. Something that's not done very often on the double-strung harp, but actually can be done, is to be able to modulate from one key to another without flipping any levers. What I've done is I've set low, mid-range, and bass on the left-hand course to the key of C, and on the other course of strings I've got the key of C from mid-range up. Then I have the key of G, notice my levers flipped here, on the left-hand course from mid-range up, and from mid-range down on the right hand, I've got the key of G. So I can play in, let's say I'll play something in A minor with my hands in this position, and then in E minor with my hands in this position, without having to flip any levers during the piece. Now we come to my favorite double strung technique, doubling melodies. This is probably what you've seen done the most often on this type of harp. Let's say that I have a melody and I could arrange that in a normal way. But what if I want to do something a little bit fancier? I can actually double the melody by echoing it from side to side. Like that. I think first I'm going to play part of this tune in unison so that you can hear the melody, and then I'll double it. Likewise, you can take a melody that's too complicated to play just with your right hand and play it also with the left hand in a way that sounds very much as though it were doubled, but it's actually cut in half. Let's look at this. Now, if I tried to play that up to tempo, it would really be kind of stiff and staccato and not a lot of fun to play or listen to. And my hands won't even do it. So if I take that and I play half of it on one side and half on the other, like so, then I come up with something that really has a lot of lilt to it, and it'll sound like this. I don't have to play the entire tune doubled, so I'll give you an example of that. So I'm going to play the tune again with part B, and part B is arranged in a more normal way, and also a part C. And so what I'll do is 3 different styles. Part A will be doubled or echoed. Part B will be fairly normal, something I could do on any harp, except that there will be times when my hands are a little bit overlapped. And in part C, I'm going to do a little bit of unison playing. Now I'm going to do a short demonstration of what I call overlapping chords. You can play a chord using 2 different voicings in the same place. So for instance, I've got a 4-fingered chord here and a first inversion or 3-fingered chord on the other side. And if I roll it, I could pretend that it's the same thing as doing it with my right hand higher as you would on a single course harp, except that the right hand's in the same place as the left. It makes a very interesting effect. But what's more, you can move one hand or the other around. And since the chords are overlapping, it produces an effect that you can't get on any other kind of harp. Now I'm going to demonstrate another version of that by adding a little bit of interesting rhythm to it. Now I'll show you one last thing that's very, very effective on slow melodies. I call it the wandering thumb. If you go like this to set up a pattern, I'm going right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. You can leave the finger where it is and move the thumb. Or you can leave the thumb where it is and move the finger. So I'll play a little melody this way. Now all of these techniques are going to be much easier if you make them into exercises. The reason for doing exercises is to get your hands trained so that you don't have to think very hard about what you're doing. If you have to think about what you're doing and play or perform at the same time, there's too much going on. So if you train your hands to be able to do them automatically, then you can play just about anything pretty easily. That's always what exercises are for. So I'll show you a few exercises that are specific to the things that I've just talked about using these various techniques for the double strung harp. Let's look first at doubling chords. If you place the right hand and the left hand on a C triad, C, E, and G, place them both in the same position. Now let's just play those together in unison. C, E, G. Then we can go back down, C, E, G, E, C. And we can do that back and forth. We could move it up one step. How about another step? This just gets your hands accustomed to working in unison. You can do it, of course, with any kind of chord. Let's try 4 fingers. And so on. Then, once your hands are accustomed to that, you can double it. So that's basically just echoed. Then you can double a whole chord. So I went left, right, left, right. The trick to these is to do them fairly slowly at first. If you speed them up too much, then you're short-circuiting the reason for doing an exercise, which is to get your muscles accustomed to doing this. When you get this fast, you can do all kinds of things with it, but don't do it fast too soon. Get used to it first. Here's another thing we can do. We can do a walking motion in unison. I've got my hands placed so that my index finger is on C and my thumb is on E. I can play thumb, then put my thumb on D, play my finger and place it on B, and simply keep walking down like this. unison. This is a very common harp exercise. You can come back up. Now we can echo it. And it doesn't matter which hand you start with. Now we can also double it 2 notes and 2 notes, right side, left side, or vice versa. We can do descending or ascending scales in unison. Doubled. And as you can see, one of the most important things that you can do with the double-strung harp is to use your left hand just as you would your right hand. So, the reason for doing things where the left hand's doing exactly what the right hand's doing, whether it's in unison or offset, is because your left hand really needs to learn the things that your right hand already knows. Until you get accustomed to creating your own arrangements for the double-strung harp, there are books to help you out. Beth Colley and I have written one for beginners for double-strung harp. And we also have this one that's for intermediate and advanced players. The arrangements in here are notated specifically for double-strung harp, and they're easy to read. So you do have this resource. So those are the techniques for the double-strung harp. From here, it's up to you to do the exercises and practice. You can create your own arrangements, or you can get arrangements from books, and just know that you've got so many possibilities with the double-strung harp that aren't possible on anything else, and you've got a lot of sound. So I hope you'll enjoy your double-strung harp, and I hope to meet you someday.